Welcome to Heart and Hustle, where passion fuels progress. Hey, welcome to another episode of Heart and Hustle, where we dive deep with creatives, the visionaries, and the culture shifters shaping our country and our world. Now, I got to tell you guys, I was super excited about today's episode because this gentleman, and I got to call him a gentleman because he's truly that. He's a masterful musician, a culture curator. He's a staple in Chicago. A multi-instrumentalist, singer, composer, and entrepreneur with over 10 years of experience, and a tech founder. From composing film scores and theme songs to curating signature experiences under the Chybrations brand, Sam Thousand continues to redefine what it means to live and create with purpose. Sam, first, thank you for joining us, man. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing really well. The day's going really well.
So, you've worn so many hats: musician, composer, curator, founder, entrepreneur. How do you define your artistry today?
Today I try to keep it in three titles. So I say musician, curator, and social entrepreneur to try to, put a container around it when talking with folks. But yeah, there's so much more to it and so many subsets of all of that. But I really just in general I try to mold to the needs and I try to mold to where I'm at in the current season. So yeah, that's how I define it.
You started playing your trumpet at 7 years old. How has that early relationship with music shaped your identity and your work ethic?
Man, so I think it shaped it tremendously. When you're coming up in a music program, especially in those formative years, you learn a lot about like personal responsibility. You learn a lot about the difference between practice and rehearsal. Practice is when you are by yourself and you're working on the things that you need to work on to get better. And rehearsal is when you come into the space and you're contributing to an overall picture and you're a part of the big picture. And I think that really showed me, my impact. It showed me my capabilities. It challenged me. It kept me out of a lot of trouble, but it also made me realize that this is something that comes natural to me and this is something that I should be doing. And then, also, the community aspect of it. I'm very much a team worker. I love teamwork. I love, coming together to do something that we all can't do individually. And so I think coming up, you know, starting to play the trumpet at 7. And the trumpet is a difficult instrument. It's very demanding and ruthless even. If you haven't been practicing, it will let you know. But yeah, it definitely has challenged me and kept me just on my toes and I've been able to excel in it over the years from a young age.
I don't think I ever told you, man. So when I tried out for the band, third grade, I was probably 8 years old. Everybody, all the kids wanted lined up to play the trumpet, to play the sax, right? Everybody wanted to play the sax, but they were like three chairs for sax, and so they gave me the trumpet. They were like, your mouth, your build, all this would be great, but the trumpet, man, I played that thing like 5 minutes, and I was like, nope, this is not my ministry. This is not for me. So to see the masterful way in which you do that, you use that instrument is actually outstanding and really, truly, it's a gift that you have. Um, let's talk about Chybrations because I was so excited to see you drop it. Why don't you tell the people what it is and what inspired you to build the platform to empower the community?
Yeah, so Cybrations I mean, it's a platform that's actually about 9 years old now. What we started in 2016, 2017, we started with just being a platform for live bands and songwriters with live bands. And so we would do these in studio sessions and we have a YouTube where you can check these out from 2017, 18, and 19. During the pandemic, I wanted to kind of switch it up and find different ways to kind of really have more social impact, and not just promote in one lane, but really try to expand and evolve. And that really started making me think about media. Naturally during the pandemic, I was doing things in media, I was live streaming, and then it eventually led to an opportunity to make an app. So that's what Cybrations has been pushing a lot this season is our app. And so this app is specifically for the performing arts scene to centralize the performing arts scene in all of greater Chicago by way of open mics and jam sessions and now workshops. Now, the reason why this app is so necessary is because, for many of us coming up on the performing arts scene, whether we do music, we do poetry, comedy, storytelling, dance, any of that, we just have to, investigate and find the right people to ask where to go. And you really go on this journey of discovery and finding, out where to go by just, case by case, right? You go to this thing and then maybe that leads you to the next thing, and while that journey is cool and it's a part of the process, we're in 2025, in 2024 when we launched it, and it's an opportunity to use technology to allow us to move faster, to connect at a greater level, and to also know what's happening in the city. So got a chance to put this prototype together, which was our first version of the app. And it was a super basic app just to kind of test the waters. And we launched that in 2024 in January. And by October, we had over 700 users. We had over 450 events that we promoted through the app and in 44 different neighborhoods throughout Chicago. So thank you. And so that was a great indication that this was not only needed, but it was something that folks would use if they had it. So, I got to work mid year in 2024, and we started working on the official launch of the Chybrations app, which is out now. Now, this new app, this official app, is a lot more robust. It has also a new category, which is workshops as well, because we always want to make sure that we're providing some type of professional development for artists. And so now you can find open mics, jam sessions, and workshops through this app. There's a list view, there's a map view, and there's a calendar view. So, however you would like to see these events, you can toggle that way. And one of the best things I love about this new app is automation. So a lot of these types of events are usually recurring. Open mics are sometimes and mostly once a month. Jam sessions, once a month or something like that. Sometimes we got some open mics that are once a week, but also workshops. Maybe you're offering a series that's 3 days straight consecutively. We're able to make it to where you make one post, and if it repeats, especially with that same flyer, you can just set that and forget it, and we actually help amplify your events on your behalf because they're on the app. So yeah, that's the app, and we're doing a lot of other things that are really just kind of building community and bringing people together as well. 'Cause people used to ask, when are y'all doing your own jam session? And so we have this event called the Portal, which is a jam session where we feature a different live band every month. It's on the last Tuesdays, but we also have conversation, networking, we have interactive media. We always feature some speakers. This past Tuesday, actually, we did an Afrofuturist theme. So we had Yatasha Womack, who just released her 10th book, and it's based around Afrofuturism, amongst other features. So yeah, we're just trying to continue to build community. The artist community itself it lives on the underground. You don't hear a lot of
Yeah.
citywide, ads and citywide promotionals, talking about the artist scene. They're not talking about open mics and jam sessions. So we have to be that for ourselves, and Cybrations is a part of that solution.
Man, first, thank you because as a lover of live music and in performance art, it's hard to find in Chicago, and I think it is very insular. Like when you go to New York,
Yeah.
you got Blue Note. You can go to LA, you got Studio Live. You can Wednesday nights open mic. Bobby Brown might be there. New York, you're gonna see Robert Glasper. He's got his residency, and you can literally pretty much pick a part of Manhattan and find something. But outside of like the traditional venues here, which are great, no knock to Andy's and the Green Mill and others, they're great venues. There's so much more that's happening, and I think when you talk about like beyond just the jazz scene, you want to go hear live R&B, it's harder to find. So I think you've built something that's needed, necessary to amplify the community, and just really, really dope. Fun other fact, Yatasha, shout out to her. I got to get her on here too. I built her first two websites for
Wow.
Post Black and Rayla 2212, which is went into this crazy spinoff. So a lot of synergies here. Are just dope people and so much talent in the city.
Man, what don't you do, man? You building websites too. That's crazy.
That's how I
Man,
started, man.
we
I was doing it a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually before this call working on the Cybrations website. I mean, it's nice to be able to have to be able to do all the things, even if it's just a little bit that you know about it. I do
Yeah.
want to say about I'm getting more and more into the civic arts. That's where I'm moving. That's the direction I'm moving. I've been a full-time performing artist for the last 10 years, but now it's time to kind of move in a space where I can use my platform to create change. I actually just won this fellowship that I can't can't announce yet, but my whole project will be talking about, or my whole project will be focusing on the PPA license because that is a really huge issue as it pertains to spaces that are public places of amusement, right? So that's what the PPA stands for.
Yeah.
And when we compare Chicago to New York, and we even look at the black spaces in Chicago, it's very tough for us to do events where we can actually sell tickets and actually create sustainable, events. We usually have to work off of donations because of this PPA license not being, granted to these spaces. And of course, there's spaces on South and West Sides. And of course, they're black spaces. And of course, they try over and over for years to get these PPA licenses just to be legal. So that's one of the things that I'll be working on too for this year and a couple of years to come as well.
So actually, I didn't know we was gonna hit this, but this is actually a really good topic to talk a little bit about. When I was a promoter years back, we would work with venues who didn't have PPA licenses, and so we wanted to bring in DJs, live performers, venues that didn't have it were really challenged. You'd often have to like work to either find a nonprofit, a C3, to work through to donate a portion of the proceeds, and even that got a little sketchy when they started to like kind of realize people were doing that under Mayor Emanuel. And so you see often that our venues, in particular, like you said, South and West Side, who are already resource challenged. And the issue with the PPA is that it's very expensive to get. It's a very political process to get it. And then there's actually a 3% public place of amusement tax attached to that license that you have to have. And this is on top of like what you pay if you already have tavern license, or you have your food and beverage, you have the liquor license is required. And if you're doing liquor retail sales in the same venue, all of these licenses have fees, renewal fees, and things attached. And so often venues will either not know they need that and they'll go without it, which means that typically you can't have live performers, you can't have DJs, you have to kind of go with like music over the air. And even that stipulations to that too, where you're not just playing somebody's regular Spotify, right? There's broadcast rights and licensing rights to pay the artist. So I'm glad you're working on that. That has been a long time issue of our venues in the city. And it's actually closed quite a few venues too.
Yes, I appreciate you giving that insight. It's definitely, a long-standing issue for sure. And I do want to add that Chicago is full of artists. It makes no sense to have this type of barrier in place in a city such as this. And then I do want to also add that even more than venues and small venues. It's also just spaces like a coffee shop. Like, if Sip and Savor wants to have a jazz band in there, that they would like to sell tickets to, why do they need to get a PPA license in order to do that in their own space? I understand there's some regulations and all those type of things, but I think there's other ways, and those are the type of ideas that I'll be bringing to the table when I'm working on this fellowship.
Yeah, it's exciting, man, because a few years back, there was a big push in the city to do another tax. Like it was a venue tax or a promoter tax they were trying to add on top of this. And what happened was it was actually the community who came out and was like, wait, and then they got supported by the massive venues. The small folks were like, wait, you want us to pay a per head tax on the number of people we click through the door at performance spaces? That's our margin. And then the big venues were like, wait, you want us to pay a four-head tax on 30,000 people at Soldier Field? We just won't do concerts in Chicago anymore. And then they shelved it. They got rid of that. But you're right. Like it is actually something that other states, and if you go to other states, you go to Texas, you go to Atlanta, you go to New York, you'll walk in a coffee shop. There's a band there. There's somebody playing. You might pay a $5 or $10 cover for that. They don't have the license in the same way, and so they're not prohibited from doing that. Which is why when people ask why doesn't Chicago have more of a live performance culture, directly because of that. So I'm excited, and if those of you watching out there, um, if you need there's some support, saying maybe there's a letter. I don't know what you're working on without giving up too much information, but we can tell the people to stay tuned or follow you on how we can get behind either calling our alderman, calling the mayor, those in positions of power to make some changes to this too.
Yes, and yeah, if you're watching this and you would like to get involved or just would like to support, you can text me directly on my super phone. My number is 773-832-5062. And it'll just prompt you to save your number and I will get back to you. What's so important about this is getting a database of supporters who could help amplify and be a part of this movement. And that's really what we're building here because this PPA license was originally called a cabaret license. And we know that Black entertainment has been the entertainment, and so it was put in place in order to regulate Black folks, and so this is a very old law. They just changed the name, same law though, and we just got to do something about it. It's outdated.
Yep,
So
and this
please
is
support and please reach out if you can.
so y'all are already seeing the civic artistry, the civic leadership of Sam Thousand, and this is something I didn't know, y'all. So this is like new, fresh off the block here. Let's talk a little bit about you and your energy, because I think people can see now, even as you're getting into the interview, there's a particular energy you have as a performer. For those out there that don't know, Sam was gracious enough to grace the stage for my solo show in September. We're working on the run back next September, so hopefully we can get them back out there. But your performances are very intentional. You connect with an audience in a way that is hard to describe, and I'll tell you, if you haven't experienced it, you need to do that. How do you do that? What's your process for creating that type of energy in a room, and how did you learn that, or did you always have that?
Man, I appreciate those words. This is something I've been doing for, man, 16, 17 years. But it comes natural to me. It comes very natural to me. I come from a bloodline of entertainers and just music people. Even though I didn't grow up with folks doing exactly what I do, it's definitely in my blood, and also entrepreneurship. But I think what has made me successful is that I'm just leaning into who I am. I'm a Southern gentleman from Houston, Texas. I love funk and soul music. I love to connect with people. I love community, and I love the stage as well. I found solace in the stage. And the stage for many people could be one of the most scariest things. But I've just kind of leaned into that. And once I jumped off the ledge of becoming a full-time artist 10 years ago, it was only forward from there. So as far as getting on stage, it's really about making my band feel comfortable. It's really about making the audience feel loose. And that starts with me as a band leader. That starts with me feeling loose and comfortable, me having a smile on my face, even if I may not even be feeling the best. Me coming forward with just like, hey, let's hit. We got this moment we're about to create and we're about to share. Also with the room, I feel like every room I perform in, I have to make it like it's my room for this moment. I'm gonna take over for this moment. And I always have to play the room as well, right? So it doesn't always mean I come in real harsh. Sometimes I mean I'm just, provide a nice little cloud. So I think I've had so much experience over the years to where I can go into any room and be effective. And I just want to reiterate, being effective doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to get everyone's attention or, I'm going to get everyone dancing, you know what I'm saying, so to speak. But being effective in every room is just knowing that I'm providing a backdrop to the experience, and that's what music is. So yeah, I appreciate that. Over these years, I've been able to do so many stages from Millennium Park to, many and several speakeasies in Chicago to many many hotel lobbies from like Soho House to the Hoxton to Ace Hotel, Hilton Renaissance Hotel, and so like, all these different spaces, public events, private events. I think I've been hired very often just from the fact that I'm able to give and make from just performing and bringing my band and doing our thing.
It's really cool because when I remember the first time I saw you, it was about a decade ago. You weren't singing; you were just playing, and I didn't realize you could sing. Maybe a couple years later, I saw you at a show. You were performing, and then and I was just like, "This is crazy. What doesn't the brother do?" But I will say, I remember from the experience of my show, you did that. You came in, and like the first few songs, you were like setting the atmosphere. But by the end of that set, like 30 minutes in, you had the room like and I remember it was All This Love. You were singing All This Love. Um, Elder Bard, Switch, one of them. L's All This Love. And everybody was just like locked in. And it wasn't a thing where you try to come in and do that. It was you just doing what you do and the room gravitating to you. I think that's, and I love music. I've been around performers my whole life. And so you always can tell those that are anointed to do it versus those that love doing it versus those that are doing it either because it's a job or out of obligation. There's an element of your sound that involves and really brings story to life too. I know you've done some, composing. How does storytelling show up in your sound and in your work?
Man, that's a great question. That's a great question. I think that it all has to happen organically, even going back to the performance at your solo show, and what I was talking about even with just with any room, it's really about listening to the space and looking at the people and figuring out what their vibe is to use my own intuition to know where to go next. I am driving, but I'm not the only one in the car, right? You know what I'm saying? And so what was really cool with songwriting is that I'm a hyper creative man, so I'm always thinking of different, and I'm sure you can relate to this too, man. I would imagine you're a hyper creative as well, where you always think of solutions, you're always thinking of creative things or ways to do different things, different approaches. And so when I'm writing music, I've had many different seasons. I've had seasons of like, okay, I'm gonna write this often. I'm gonna just show up and see what happens. I've had those seasons. I've had seasons where, man, I got whatever writer's block, so I'm gonna just let it breathe and I'm not gonna focus on writing. And I've had seasons where, I'm washing dishes and I'm trying to finish this song. I think the second verse, I think this should be the second verse, or I'm like, driving or I'm in the shower, one of those kind of like tasks where you're in that beta mode. I think it's called beta mode. But anyway, the storytelling is very important. And a lot of times when I'm writing, I just try to think of what's a good approach, because a lot of what we do as human beings is we improv. Life is a big game of improvisation. And that is a part of the art of it as well. And art is also life. Society in the world has a word or term for art. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just a part of life. And so I just try to keep it as organic as possible. That's definitely something I want to say. There's definitely a story I want to tell. There's definitely some type of therapy I want to get out of it, or there's definitely something I want to release from this, or there's definitely a moment that I want to encapsulate, or this feeling I want to encapsulate and I want to put it in a song. So I really just start with, I really just find out where the starting point is, and I just go from there. I just go from there, and I try to make it as robust and round as possible.
That's beautiful. And it is very similar to like my creative process with the painting too. Like it's the same thing. Because people are asking when you touch the canvas, how do you know like how it was going to end up? And oftentimes it's like, no, I didn't. I had an idea of where I wanted it to go, right? And that's the structure that I may put around it. Maybe that's you and the lyrics or the verses or the composition. But where it ended and landed often is just something that I felt and I trusted that gut feeling. When you think about Chicago, the city, what role does the city play in your sound, and what role does the city play in your legacy?
Man, this city is like the impact of my life that this city has had is the reason why I'm still here. I've had people even say, man, I'm surprised you've never left. And in my mind, it doesn't make sense to not be here because when I first moved here, I came here for one reason, and that was to fulfill a full scholarship role at Columbia College to play lead trumpet in their jazz band. And I've been in Texas all my life. And I was like, let's do something new. So I came here for one reason, and within the first week, I was like, wow, this city is amazing. I got so much more than I bargained for within that first year. Within my first 3 months, I met Sidewalk Chalk. There was a band I quit. We all quit our jobs together and went on tour. We toured for 5 years. We got 4 albums out. Like because I moved to the city, it's opened me up to being able to tour and become a full-time artist. It's opened me up to so many different opportunities and stages and clients and income. You know what I'm saying? Um, so for me, it's really about giving back to the city, and it's really about leaving the city better than what I even found it in. The city has a lot of potential to do even more, and I start with the artist, man. Like a big part of what I do now for the city through the civic arts work, through the community work, through the Chybrations app, is because I was asking this question to myself, like Chicago is bursting at the seams with artists. It's literally bursting at the seams for artists. What do we do with that? You know? Like, what do we do with that? And I think that even the city, even DCase is still trying to figure out what can they do with that. But I think on the ground level or even the underground level, there's so much room to do new things, to invent new ways of community, to use, technology to ask each other these same questions and figure out what we want to do and create our own things. And so that's what I'm here for. And honestly, I just want to be a spark, you know what I'm saying? Every fire comes from a spark, and I just want to be a part of that legacy of what's to come. And I'm not scared to light that match. I'm not scared to start it off, because I think that that's a part of my purpose here.
It's funny you answered the rap question with that. Man, thank you. You are, I'm not overselling it, one of the most dynamic and talented individuals I have the pleasure to know, to call a brother and friend. As we wrap, is there anything you want to share, any upcoming events, things you want the people to know about?
Man, what do I got coming up? So I would say just support Chybrations at this point. Like, I really would love for you to download the app. It's a free app in the mobile store, whether you have Android or iOS. Just go to your app store and download that app and check that out. We are currently in development mode right now, getting into the next phase. So just stick around for a little bit. There's a lot more to come. And also come to the portal. I'm also looking for sponsorships for the portal. This is an artist networking event that I want to continue to keep it free for the artists to come and just be in community. And we've been able to partner with Arts Alliance Illinois as well as Busting in Spaces to be able to have some type of booth there or table there to provide resources to artists. So any artist who comes there, they not only are in networking and being in community, not only jamming, not only doing interactive media, but they're also able to find out about grant opportunities and resources. And with Arts Alliance Illinois, the help desk, they're able to actually ask someone specifically about an opportunity that they're interested in and get pointers and tips or even some troubleshooting. So I'm currently looking for some support in the portal. Chybrations presents the portal. It happens every last Tuesdays. If you're interested in supporting or want to find out more, I can definitely send you more information. Just send me a text once again, 773-832-5062. And you can also follow me on all the social media at Sam1000. And I got a website as well if you'd like to learn more about me, Sam1000.live. Man,
So
it's a
look,
pleasure being here, brother.
Look, man, it's always fun when you get to do these and have conversations and dialogue and learn more about what is really fueling and driving folks. And you are definitely somebody that's building legacy. All right, y'all, that's a wrap on today's episode featuring the one and only Sam Thousand, a brother who reminds us that artistry is more than expression, it's a calling. From his trumpet solos to community-driven moments, Sam's story is a blueprint for building with integrity and elevating others along the way. If today's episode resonated with you, make sure to follow, subscribe, share it with someone who needs a little bit more soul in their life. Sam told you where to find him at Sam Thousand. Support his work at Chybrations. Let's get some sponsors for the portal. And until next time, stay inspired, stay rooted, and as always, keep creating something that moves the culture forward. Peace. And we are out.